What up, what up, what up, what up? I'm your host, Go Green. Welcome to the Fan Post. At the Fan Post, what we like to do is we take fans' posts from social media, fans' responses, comments, and we kind of elaborate on them. Some fans have great things to say. They make great, astute points that show they've been Knicks fans for a long time and are not just fanatic. They actually make sense in what they're saying. And then you have others that are just like way out there in some of the things they say. And then others just lack some understanding. So what I wanted to do was, I'm a member of a bunch of, I've said this before, I'm a member of a bunch of Knicks groups and other, I'm reading all types of articles, and I usually go back and forth with people online, really to gauge where they are and how they feel, not to question them or condemn what they say or what their ideas are, what is good for the team and not. But I just like to take the temperature of Knicks fans, and that's what we're going to do at the Fan Post. So I'm going to start right away. I'm part of a group called Knicks Fans Together, We Bleed Orange and Blue. It's called Knicks Fans Together, We Bleed Orange and Blue. And I ask anybody, please go and try to become a member of these groups. Give them a shout out. If you like the Knicks, you like to talk, or you like to just read information outside of the... Some people think that only the sports reporters and the analysts on TV. Listen, we all been watching basketball. We all grew up playing it or watching it. I mean, look, the greatest coaches are not the greatest players, right? So the greatest players are not necessarily, don't become the best coaches. And the people that can coach the game don't necessarily play the game well. So we shouldn't assume that you have to be famous or in the NBA or friend to the NBA or friend to NBA players in order to know something about the game. I'm sure there's people that know way more about the X's and O's of basketball, but that's why this is called the Fan Post. There's no right and wrong in being a fan. There's just crazy and sane. So right away, Knicks Fans Together, We Bleed Orange and Blue. Separate words. I'll say it one more time. Knicks Fans Together, We Bleed Orange and Blue. So I posted in this group. I post in tons of groups. And I take one post and put it in about 20, 25 groups to see the different level of responses. So, and Knicks fans, one last time, because we got to give a shout out. Without these groups, I have no show. Knicks Fans Together, We Bleed Orange and Blue. Go check them out on Facebook. I posted, if the youth movement pays dividends, do you not... Oh, no, I'm sorry. Let's start that over. If the youth movement pays dividends, you do not blow it up after year one to get a big name. What do the fans say? With 3 question marks. See, I got my live stream going on over here. You know what I mean? Get some support from my Green of Thrones people. That's my group, the Green of Thrones, but we'll talk about that later. So, once again, if the youth movement pays dividends, you do not blow it up after year one to get a big name. What do the fans say? One person says, I don't want a max free agent this offseason. Interesting. I got a theory of building and salary management is basics. One move can put you back 5 years or more. So I can understand that logic. I can see why you would not want a free agent this summer. So let's talk about it. A lot of Knicks fans are not aware of the contracts we would have to renounce in order to sign a major free agent. So let's talk max money, super max money. The Knicks can't do any of that without renouncing contracts. So when you're talking about renouncing contracts, now you're going, well, who we're renouncing? We don't want Cantor back, who is the biggest cap hold on the team. We don't want, we may not want Burke. Some people don't want Burke back, but guys like Von Lee and Moutier, also, I think Dotson as well. I'm not sure about Dotson. I have to get back to you on that. But I think Dotson as well. These are guys that would have to be renounced in order to offer a max guy his money. So if you don't want a major free agent this offseason, then that bodes well for you because you can renounce guys, sign guys to reasonable deals that you can afford, and re-sign your talent. Because remember, my post said if This is the big if the youth movement pays dividends. Now, that's kind of loaded. What do we mean if it pays dividends? Clearly, the Knicks have one of the worst records in the NBA right now. The Knicks, after this 6-game road trip starting tonight in Milwaukee, it's very likely the Knicks could end up with the worst record in the NBA in the next week and a half. So it's hard to say that that is a youth movement paying dividends. But when you're talking about building from scratch, what are those dividends? Competing every night, working on your game, learning how to play defense at an NBA level, learning how to play team defense at an NBA level, learning how to rebound. You got guys like Kevin Knox. He looks like a lottery pick. He looks like he'll only get better each year with his scoring. He's getting better and better. But his defense and rebounding is shoddy. So, those are the things that you want to pay dividends. So what I'm saying in my post is, if the Knicks get to a point where you're at the end of the season and they only won 20, 25 games, if that, but you're competing every night, they're listening to the coach. Do you just renounce these guys to sign a free agent, and then you're down 2 of your better players come next year? And I'm going to leave KP out of this because we don't know what we're getting back with Porzingis. We can only assume he will come back healthy, but I'm going to leave him out of this and talk about it as if KP is not around. So if you want to stay with the process, then I guess you wouldn't blow up the roster and sign a major free agent, or excuse me, as someone told me, it's not blowing it up, renouncing the contracts. You know what I mean. If you renounce contracts to get a free agent player, how many super max or max free agents do you see wanting to come to a team that doesn't have a point guard, that doesn't have a backup power forward or a center, depending on what position they play? Imagine a guy like KD looking at the Knicks. He sees Kevin Knox. He sees Trier. He sees a project in Mitchell Robinson. I mean, does he want to play with a guy like Tim Hardaway? I don't see where a max free agent looks at the Knicks and goes, I want to play with these young guys, especially if we're going to have to lose Vonleh and Moutier, 2 of our better young players. Now, I'm not saying Vonleh and Moutier are world beaters, but they're paying dividends. They are looking like what we want. Former lottery picks looking like they should have been drafted where they were drafted, and doing that for the New York Knicks. That's what paying dividends is. I do agree with this post that one move can put you back 5 years or more. Now, here's the question, though. When you're talking about major free agents and them wanting to come to New York, if a guy like KD, we'll use KD as an example because that's the guy everyone's talking about. If a guy like KD wants the Knicks, yes, you do renounce the contracts of the youth in order to get Kevin Durant. The reason I say that is because Kevin Durant's a special player. You team him up with guys like Trier and Kevin Knox. You have these tall, athletic, versatile guys that can play different positions. And obviously, we hope that KP comes back. But the other side of all of that is that if Kevin Durant wants to come to New York, if a max guy wants to come to New York, knowing that the Knicks have to renounce a few contracts in order for that player to get his wish, now you're dealing with a different thing. That means this player believes that not only do you have some young talent available that they can team up with right away to make things competitive right away, but that guy also believes in the coaching staff in the front office and that they would be able to turn things around and make that team a contender with this new player within the next year or two of this guy signing a contract, right? Because if KD sees, you know what, I like how these guys are operating. I want to finish my career trying to do what we all think is the impossible and winning a ring in New York in the NBA. So yeah, if one of those guys wants to come here, it's kind of a moot point. I don't think you turn down a guy like that because you want to keep Von Lee and Emmanuel Mudiay. So it's interesting. This next person, and you know what? That first person, their name was Andrzej Nowak. I'm going to do my best with the names. And I'm going to tell you, on the fan post in the future, we're going to have these people on. Maybe I can't get them on the podcast, but I can get them on the live stream and go back and forth and let them defend their posts, maybe elaborate, because a post is just a snapshot. It doesn't really tell you the full thinking of the person. So I found that as you get people to elaborate, they have a lot more to say and it's a lot more depth, or they don't. So Kasim Rich said, if we can get KD, Kawhi, forget all that other shiznit, you do it. See, and this is to my point. If you can get a guy like KD, a guy like Kawhi Leonard, it's hard to argue the point of keeping these young guys to hope they pan out and you getting franchise level talent. Because KD and Kawhi would have to want to come here. They already know that this is happening. Now, I'm talking more from the perspective of the Knicks making pitches to these guys, not knowing what these guys want to do. You know, do you give up on the youth movement in year one? And now I'm going to bring Kristaps Porzingis into the conversation. Or do you bring him back next season? Do you bring KP back next year to see how he looks with these new players, to see how much he can increase their games or their level, see what the team can be in year two, adding a Porzingis and another draft pick? I'm not going to talk Zion or Barrett. Obviously, we have to secure a top 1, 2, 3 pick. If you secure a top 4 or 5 pick in next year's draft, you're going to get a good to great player coming out of college, and you hope that that pans out in the NBA. So I don't know if the Knicks will get a top 3 pick, top 5 maybe, but you're going to end up with a good player out of college next season. So, you know, you may not want to blow it up in order to bring these guys in. Let's see. So someone said, what are we even talking about? What are we blowing up? I said, I asked him, I'm not sure what you don't understand. Maybe the comments would help. The dude said to me he was being sarcastic. He knows what I'm saying. He just thinks I'm wrong. Now, here's the thing. The reason I'm bringing this up is because this is a ridiculous comment. This is just ridiculous. People, when someone asks a question and someone says, if this were to happen, would you do this? You can't tell that person they're right or wrong. They asked a question. You seem like you cannot comprehend the language you're speaking. It's ridiculous. I told him I asked a question based on perspective. He said I'm wrong. I don't know how you tell somebody they're wrong and they're trying to ask a question to gauge what you think about the question. So I said I asked the question based on a perspective. I'll leave it there. He said Porzingis, Knox, Trier, Dotson, and Mitch. Then he tells me there is no perspective. Those are the players that matters, and they are not going anywhere. How the hell do you tell someone there is no perspective when they just gave you a perspective and then asked a question based off that perspective? So to the homie Damon C. Aniton, excuse me if I said your name wrong, but that's just ridiculous, homeboy. With all due respect, that's a ridiculous fan post, and congratulations, because you have gotten the first ridiculous fan post of the night. We got to read, people. We got to read. Don't be sarcastic with people trying to gauge your interests. Don't tell people there is no perspective. Don't tell people they're wrong for having an opinion. So we're going to move on to one more comment. Okay, someone asked a question here. They said, who would we have to renounce that would really matter? And I think that's a great question. It's a great question because if I'm making a point about renouncing young talent and you're talking about renouncing guys that you're not really concerned with, then yes. Why would it matter? But most Knicks fans like Noah Vonleh, and most Knicks fans appreciate Moutier and how he's looking at this moment. And some Knicks fans understand the value if Moutier is a keeper. Some Knicks fans also understand the value in Vonleh as a keeper, because these guys are on low contracts as is, and it will not take a lot of money to re-sign them. That's in my opinion. I do not think it would take a lot of money to re-sign Noah Vonleh or Emmanuel Moutier. And if Emmanuel Moutier can continue to develop, and there's no point guards for you to get out there, why not stick with him and then add some of this other talent around you as you build? So the brother Marvin Remy once again asks, who would we have to renounce? That really matters. It's a great question. And I personally say Moutier and Vonleh matter at this point. That's the consensus I'm getting from Knicks fans in different groups and on different websites where they're leaving their comments and their responses to articles and so on. So I'm going to wrap this up here. I hope you guys feel this was informative. I hope it's a form of entertainment for you, because we want to inform, we want to entertain, we want to have some fun doing what we like to do. It's a little bit different from my live stream people, because I usually engage with them directly. Here I'm kind of engaging to an audience that is not here to respond to me or anything like that. So I appreciate it. Thorough was good, brother. Matter of fact, I'm gonna start to do that too. We're gonna do this with the Knicks. We're gonna do this with the Giants. Obviously, I'm in New York sports, but we're gonna do it across the board. I got my brother Thorough on my live stream right now, and he's a big Mavericks fan, so I'm gonna give him a shout out because he's the only one here with me right now. Shout out to your boy Luka. He's balling. I can't say nothing. All I'm saying is I've been hearing rumors that y'all want to trade Dennis Smith Jr. and we'll take him for Frank. But before you curse me out, I'm going to get offline. Yo, shout out, y'all. I'm your host, Go Green. Welcome to the Fan Post. We'll see you next time. Peace.